can see you there.
Something big is going on here.
From hunting ghosts to Bigfoot,
paranormal, UFOs, true crime, and more.
We won't just be spouting articles.
I was researching for your entertainment.
The beginning of a new world.
The best guac you'll ever fucking eat.
true story.
It's basically like one day you walk outside and you see that the ants are playing with matches.
This is the Black Cat Report. See you on the other side.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and before bringing our special guest, I'd like to welcome in our other hosts, Selena.
Hello.
Betsabe.
Hi.
Joey.
Ew.
And that's it for our team. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to lock your doors, close the blinds, ignore that sound in the hall, and hide under your covers. We're bringing you into the world of paranormal investigation with a very special guest, Damion. Damion is one of the co-founders of RKB Paranormal, a Tennessee-based investigation team with over 16 unique investigations under their belt and more on the way. Damion, how the hell are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Pretty good. So I have the first question.
All right.
All right. A lot of people have had experiences with the paranormal, but not everyone goes out and pursues it. What got you interested in the paranormal?
I remember experiencing stuff since I was like 3-4 years old. Pretty much everywhere I lived, I would experience something that I couldn't really explain. And then when my teenage years, 15, 16 years old, my best friend Josh and my best friend Keith, we was always just really into it. And so like on the weekend, instead of out partying and getting drunk and stuff, you'd find us in a cemetery or any abandoned house we heard might be haunted. And we were just checking it out, trying to figure out what the hell it was about. So, and then as we got older, starting a team was actually something we'd always talked about. So when we became adults, it was like, we need to do this. We need to go to all these places, check this shit out. But in June of 2011, Keith was a cop in our hometown and he was shot and killed in the line of duty. And so all that kind of came to a halt for a while. Something me and Josh still always talked about, even after Keith passed. And back in 2020, we hit up Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in East Tennessee. And after everything that happened there, when we left, we both were in agreement. It's time to start this. We're closing in on 40 years old. It's now or never. So when we started it 2 years ago, and we've been going strong ever since.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm really sorry to hear about your friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I do want to point out, I think it's so awesome that y'all did what you did with your childhood like dreams and your plans, and you really just you kept his spirit alive. And you're keeping it alive, like doing this. And I don't know, I just thought that was so cool.
And that's why we named the team after him. So that way we could kind of honor him and he could still, in a way, be with us during investigations. So
it's amazing.
You probably see a bunch of houses wherever you look for your houses. I heard Facebook, but wherever you look for your houses, you must see dozens of them that could have the potential to be haunted. How do you vet the houses and locations that you go to?
Usually, like I said, I just find out about them on Facebook, and if I know people that's been there, I'll reach out to them to kind of see, how it went for them. And if I feel like it's worth going to, I pitch it to the team, and then we start planning from there. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of research on the place. Sometimes we'll just go in kind of completely blind, just to kind of see what happens and see if anything kind of matches up with the stories we've heard and stuff. So, so it's pretty much been Facebook. So
that's pretty cool. I never would have thought of that as like a place to look for haunted houses.
Well, you'd be
but it
surprised.
makes perfect sense.
A few of the places I knew about beforehand, but like a lot of the places we've been to, never knew of it until I joined some of these groups on Facebook. So
do you have a rating system that's like in between 1 and 10, like 10 being we will never ever go there because it's too scary, or 1 where it's like, oh, we can spend a night there?
No, there's no place we won't go.
That's cool.
There's a few
that's it.
places my wife won't go, but me and
Ah.
Josh, we're down for everywhere. So
That's awesome. That kind of leads me to I wanted to ask you so exorcism, so possession, if you did have the chance to witness, to be present at an exorcism, possession, would you do it? Would you go?
if I was single, I would say in a heartbeat. With being married and having 3 kids, I wouldn't want to risk, that shit jumping into me and me bringing it home and affecting my family. So if I was single, I wouldn't think twice about it. But being married with 3 kids, I'd have to shoot it down.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
It's a very good answer.
Very thoughtful.
My well, I grew up in like the Catholic Church, like old school Mexican family, and so did my friend. His mom actually attended a lot of exorcisms, and he told me so many crazy stories about them. I don't know if I would have wanted to be present.
Yeah, it's some wild shit.
Yeah, like he was present because she
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
find a babysitter. And she's like, close your eyes, honey.
Oh goodness.
And he's like hearing all of these noises, and like he'll peek and see something weird and be like, oh God. But
He might have been safer at home playing with matches. Like literally.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. So about like we went over the rating scale and betting locations, and you kind of have like a kind of a trust or a hunch system. You kind of you either know folks that are there, you kind of got a hunch because you're hearing a reputation on Facebook and stuff and in these different groups. I kind of wanted to ask, do you have any debunking methods? Because I've lived in old homes that are 110 years old that, the first couple times you hear those old pipes bang,
Right.
it'll put the fear of God into you right away.
Yeah, we try to debunk everything before we automatically say, okay, that was something paranormal. Like the last place we went to, it was an old funeral home, and there was water leaking in the building and all this other stuff. So this water leaking at times will sound like somebody walking around in that room, and we'd have to get up and just double check, make sure, and once we get in there, it'd be the water dripping. So we try to debunk every single thing we can before we just throw it out there to the world and say, okay, this was something paranormal. Because a lot of teams, they won't do that. They'll just automatically assume or just say, hey, that was a ghost, check out what we captured, just to get clicks and likes and all this other stuff. And we're not about that. We're in it for the love of it. If we didn't do these interviews, didn't have a Facebook, didn't have any of this stuff, we'd still be doing this. And it's just something we've always loved and been fascinated by. So yeah, but we definitely try to debunk everything we possibly can.
So y'all are like almost partial home inspectors coming into a
Right.
I was gonna say there's definitely an amazingness that you guys are like, oh, not just throwing it out there. You guys are just sitting there like, oh, this is not really a ghost thing. This is kind of just your pipe leaking. So
Right.
we're sorry that there's so much noise, but you guys are safe.
what type of skills are helpful for paranormal investigations? Like, does somebody have to be sensitive to it or to have had like a previous experience?
I wouldn't say you need any kind of special qualifications. As long as you're open to it and you're willing to accept what could or could not happen. The best thing to have is patience, in my opinion. Because you can go to some of these locations and be there for 7, 8, 9 hours and not have a thing happen. And you could go back the very next night and you'd be having stuff pop off left and right. So if you don't have the patience for it, you're probably not going to make it.
That makes sense. Do you ever think of using like mediums in your investigations?
We've thought about it. I don't really know any personal mediums. We've thought about reaching out a couple of times just to bring them along. If nothing else, just take them through the walkthrough with us to kind of see what they pick up on. So that's something we're open to if we actually ever actually find one.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
What's the longest you've stayed at a house or like a site until just to figure out if you could see something or feel something?
Typically we're there between 6 and 8 hours. Probably the longest is probably about 8 or 9 hours. That was probably at Brushy Mountain, because we ended up getting actually start about 2 hours earlier than what we scheduled to. So we was there from about 7 at night till probably 3 or 4 in the morning. So
That's awesome. It's a long night though.
That is a very long night.
it was, but it was worth it. So
I saw the video of, was that when you guys went to Tennessee where the painting flew?
yeah, that was at an old jail here in Tennessee. It's in Huntsville,
Oh my
Tennessee.
God.
That was
Mhm.
that's been probably the craziest thing we've experienced to date. And
It was so creepy. It
when it
just
happened,
fell so perfectly.
as you could tell by the reaction, it was an intense thing. And where most people would have been done after that,
I would have been punching the air.
after we kind of calmed down, we immediately played the video back, and we went downstairs, because everywhere we go, there's always somebody that has to stay on site for insurance purposes and all that stuff. And she was down in her office with noise canceling headphones on, so she had no clue what was going on. And we brought her upstairs. We're like, hey, check this out. And we tried for probably 20 minutes to get that picture to fly off the same way by just kind of slapping it ourselves, and we couldn't get it to do anything. It would just fall straight down. And so, and what's crazy about it is right before that happened, we heard a woman from the hallway saying help. And so that's what drew our attention to the hallway. And as soon as we open that door and I say hello, that picture goes flying through the air, and you can tell by my reaction, it kind of startled me. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I was so fucking hyped, because like, did I actually just
Yeah.
witness
Yeah.
this? And then to have the presence of mind, like everybody states, to actually film the entire thing. Like it was a little bit of luck on that end too, because like I said, it happened so quick. I didn't know if I was videoing the floor, if I was, turn the camera off. So luckily we captured all of it. And the people that oversee that jail, whenever they bring another group in, they present on that video. When they have like a ghost walk, just like people
That's
coming
so
through the building
cool.
at night, just kind of they present that evidence to them, and it's become like a part of their tour now. So
It's really cool.
I think you and I would have had a similar vocabulary in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can say for honest truth, I would be the person in the basement with a noise canceling headphones. Like, no, you guys go have some fun upstairs. I'll just be down here.
And what's crazy is that same picture had fallen once before that night. And when we went downstairs and got Miranda, we asked her, hey, has this ever fallen before? Because they'd only been open about 2 months when we went. And she's like, no, we've had other pictures fall, but that one hasn't fallen. And we heard it and captured the audio of it falling, but we didn't actually capture it falling. So I don't know how it came off the wall then, if it was knocked off the same way. And so I just kind of debunked it and kind of tossed it out. I was like, maybe somebody was messing with it during the day and it wasn't stuck on the wall very well, because it's hung up by like 4 or 5 Velcro strips. So when it's on the wall, it takes some force to get it off. So I was like, maybe somebody was messing with it during the day and it wasn't held on very well. We just kind of threw it out. But then for it to go flying through the air and flip in midair and go about 4.5 feet the other direction, I was like, I don't think that just fell off the wall.
No, it looks. I mean, obviously, erasing the visible person, it looks like somebody went up and just slapped it down on the top left corner, and it just
Right.
like flips through the air and lands like a few feet over away on the right. And it was.
And see, when I got home that morning, it was about a 3-hour drive home. So I got home about 4 a.m. and I slept maybe like 2 hours. Like I was so hyped. I was like, I got to show my wife this. And so I'm just showing it to her on this little LED screen. And she, right off the bat, she sees the hand.
Yep.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, I do not see this. And then I get it on the laptop and I send it over to Miranda, who actually puts the video together for me and brightens it up and all that stuff. And she sent me a screenshot before she sent me the video, and she goes, "You're not going to believe it." So when she sent me the video, I was like, "What the hell, man?" I was like, "Did we actually witness this?" It was insane.
The first time I saw the video, you and I were messaging on Instagram, and you sent it to me a couple days ago. I watched it, and I swear to God, for a brief moment, you kind of see a very faint, like almost like it's already fading out, just apparition like moving across the doorway towards the actual photo, and then it falls. Like you're walking in the door and you're like, hello, and then it's boom, like falls down.
And seeing they've said other people has seen that in the video too. I haven't been able to see it, and I've watched it 1,000 times, but they said that other people said they can see like a head when they see the hand and everything else. And I'm like, even with it slowed down, I'm watching real closely, and I'm like, I can only see the hand, but I'm not doubting anybody else. So
It was, I swear to God, I saw it. I tried to look at it again, and this might sound silly, but I feel like if you're not focusing hard the first time you see it, if you're kind of looking at everything as a whole, you'll see it. But then when you expect to look in a spot on the screen, it's not apparent. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like, yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it again here when we get finished. I'm gonna have to watch it on my laptop and slow it down.
Don't expect to see it, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, the first time you sent it to me, you were like, hey, this is really good video, we took. And I was kind of watching as a whole because I had no idea what to expect. I'm like looking at the corners, looking at the sides, like trying to listen for stuff. And I guess I was opened up to something happening, but I had no specific climax in mind, and that, I don't know. I saw it. That's all I can say.
Speaking of like moments like that, do you have any other like favorite moments from your time investigating?
I don't know if I would call this a favorite moment, but it's something that really sticks out to me. When we were at Brushy Mountain, we didn't have like any equipment whatsoever. We had a EMF detector, and I think we had a digital recorder, and that's all we had. And so we didn't have any video cameras, nothing. So we just kind of went in with 2 pieces of equipment. And so we're walking through the courtyard, Josh and I are, and he's got somebody let us use some dowsing rods. We had those too. And he's asking some questions, and it's crossing for yes and opening up for no and stuff. And I just started getting kind of pissed off. And I couldn't figure out why. And we kept walking. He kept asking questions. I just kept getting more angry. And then we walk into the gymnasium, and he asked, I don't remember what he asked, but like, I threw my hands up in the air and I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I stormed out. Like, I was so pissed off. I got across the courtyard, got past the rest of our friends, and within 30 seconds, I went from super angry to like literally I was crying in tears. I had no idea why. And when I went back and was listening, because he was using the recorder, and I was kind of listening to it all, and the questions he was asking and the answers he was getting in response, it sounded like we were contacting with somebody that was in prison for something they didn't do. So it was like I was feeling their anger for being in prison for being innocent, and then feeling their sadness for spending the rest of their life there on something they didn't even do. And that was the first time that's ever happened, and it's the only time it's ever happened, but it was intense.
Can't imagine feeling someone else's feelings kind of flow through me without, actually feeling those, being your own feelings.
Right. Like I said, I had no idea what was going on, because I was like, he was just asking just normal questions. I was like, why am I getting so mad right now? And within, like I said, 30 seconds, I went from pissed off to like, I literally broke down in tears for about 25 seconds.
I really like that you guys debunk stuff first. You like look to debunk stuff first, and then you go, okay, I can't debunk this, so this must be this thing. Unlike a lot of other people that are like, let's believe this first and then try to debunk it later. You know what I mean? Like, I love that that's your formula for things, because it allows you guys to have a little bit more credibility in that area, that you're just like, oh no, Like, I
Mhm.
understand that, obviously a lot of people, some people who don't believe in it, we're going to be the first ones to be like, no, that's just a leaky pipe or something like that. And then you're like, actually, I did all the research into this. This is not a leaky pipe. This is not the ceiling
Right.
groaning or something like that. You're like, I've done this. I've taken the time to research it, make sure we're good. And it's actually what I think it is, or what we think it is. And so that, I think, really lends you guys credibility. Is that something you guys, when you first started, were like, this is what we got to do first?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, because we didn't want to put stuff out there on like false reports. Like, if we knew 100% that was a leaking pipe, or that was so and so talking in the next room, we didn't want to throw it out there to the world and just make everybody believe we were getting all this stuff, because it doesn't happen all the time. And that's like what a lot of these teams and these shows want to portray, that it happens like nonstop, and it doesn't. So even like in the moment, we'll try to debunk right then, before we say it's paranormal. Like in our last investigation, we had sent Josh upstairs by himself, and after about 10-15 minutes, I got over the walk-in. I said, "Okay, how's it going?" About that time, the REM pod starts going off up there with him, and he's like, "Man," he's like, "this REM pod's just going crazy." And I was like, "Are you sure it's not our walkies? Because walkie-talkies can interfere with them and set them off." And he's like, "I don't know. I don't think so." And so we go up there, and we did figure out it was our walkies making them go off. But what was cool about it, when we got up there, we had the REM pod set up, and we had an EMF detector propped up in the chair beside it. And about the time we got up there, that EMF detector went flying off the chair. And I was like, "Holy shit, okay." I was like, maybe something is going on up here. And of course, I tried to debunk it. I was like, "Well, let me put it back up here. This is an old house, old floorboards. Maybe us walking around caused it to vibrate off." So I put it back in the chair, and I'll walk around the chair 4, 5, 6 times, kind of bounce up and down on the floor, and it never budges. And it had been sitting there for almost 15 minutes before it went flying through the air. So like, that was something we kind of was like, okay, maybe that was something, because Josh said when he seen it fly off, it lit all the way up to the red in midair. Like something just grabbed a hold of it and just dropped it. And so, like I said, we debunked it in the moment. And I've got all that on video. I haven't got it posted yet.
That's
but
so crazy. After like my experience with the paranormal, I would be interested in like investigating it, but at the same time, I'm so scared of like inviting it back in.
well, see, that's kind of how my wife was at first. When she first joined the team, she was kind of skeptical. She's like, "I don't want to bring something home." I was like, "Well, you're a religious person. Josh is religious. Y'all can say your prayers and stuff like that to kind of keep stuff away." And so now, anytime we leave, we always tell the spirits, "Thank you. Thank you for letting us into your home, because it is their home. It's not ours." And we tell them, "Hey, you can't come home with us. You got to stay here." And then normally Josh or Kelly want to say a prayer, and we all hope
I
that
feel like that's a
nothing
pretty good
follows us
plan.
home. So
I've never experienced anything that's paranormal. Do you think there's a reason why some people experience it and other people don't?
not saying this is in your case, but I think in a lot of cases, like, people don't want to open their minds up to it. So like in their head, they're like, this isn't real. That didn't really happen. So they could be having stuff happen all around them, but in their head, it's not happening, because they don't want to believe it. Like my mom, she was a non-believer for as long as I can remember. But when I took her to Waverly Hills, she walked out of that building 100% believer, because she opened her mind up to the possibilities of stuff that could be happening in there. And so I think if you're not open to it, I think it's less likely something you'll experience something.
Thank you for listening to the Black Cat Report and our interview with RKB Paranormal. If you would like to contact us, please email us at contact@blackcat.report, and make sure to like and subscribe on your streaming service. And as always, let's get on with the podcast.
You mentioned shows a little bit ago, and some of the, see a nice-ish way to put it, some of the distasteful methods that you see displayed on these shows. Not your words, my words. But I would say inflating, over exaggeration, right, of stuff. And kind of like, well, you sit there, you're a paranormal investigator with a team of paranormal investigators. You're a co-founder of this. And like you said, one of your first moves coming in is, put on your home inspector hat, start going through and seeing if there's rational, I guess, Newtonian based physics behind debunking some of these things. And so I'm sure you're sitting there and you're watching these shows and you're just like, dude, you didn't even look at the wall. You didn't even do this. You didn't even do that. What's I guess, are there any good shows? Are there any good documentaries where you watch and even if it's 85% of the time, 90% of the time, you're like, this is accurate. This is close,
I enjoy all of them. Because it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Some of them, like Ghost Adventures, has really went downhill in my opinion over the last few years because they over dramatize everything. And now 95% of the time when they say they quote unquote see something, their camera's pointed in the complete opposite direction. And I'm like, okay. Personally, my favorite show is Destination Fear. I feel like they're probably the closest to what it's like being on an actual investigation because there's some episodes where they don't really have anything going on, and that's legit. You can go into these places and not have a thing happen. I really enjoy Portals to Hell with Jack and Katrina. I really enjoy that one. There again, they don't get a whole lot of evidence, which is true to the game. Kindred Spirits, me and my wife really enjoy that one. That's probably my wife's favorite one because she loves Adam and Amy. So, and just for shits and giggles, we started watching Conjuring Kesha. That's if you haven't watched it yet, she's over the top with everything. Not saying she's not really into this stuff, but she's putting on a big performance for the camera. And actually, a lot of the places I've found out about too, I've discovered because of these shows. And that's another reason I like watching them because they might go to a place I've never heard of that may be close by. And then I'm like, okay, let me Google this. Let me check this place out. So some of the places we found out about, I found out because of these shows too. So I like watching them more or less for the history of the stuff.
Yeah.
More than the investigation part. Because like I said, most of the investigation, especially some of the more well-known shows, they're just over the top and over dramatized.
You and I kind of went back and forth about finding places to do investigations and haunted houses and things like that. And I was watching your videos and you're like inside of this decommissioned jail and this house, and I'm like, how did they get permission to be there? Like what's the background like? What's the process?
Most all of them, like 95% of these locations advertise it.
Really?
Hey, we allow investigations. It's X amount of dollars for X amount of hours. You get on there, you book it, and you're good to go. Some of them will allow it, but they don't promote it because they don't want that quote unquote negative attention to their building because it's still, some of them are still active buildings. Like there's some theaters that are still, active theaters, but they don't want to promote that side of it. So you kind of have to hear about word of mouth and reach out to them. And normally they're willing to work with you, but a lot of the places they advertise it.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
But most of them that advertise it are places that aren't still in commission, like they're more or less abandoned, and whoever owns the building, they're allowing investigations because they're wanting to restore the building. And so that's what they use the money for. They're trying to get it back to its heyday.
That's really smart of them to do that because they're making money from it instead of the building just being abandoned and no one does anything with it. Genius.
Like the jail we went to where we caught that picture flying off the wall. Like it's actually a law enforcement museum as well. They opened it up. That was their original idea. They wanted to open up a law enforcement museum, but they had investigated there before when it was empty, and they're like, okay, we could profit off of this too. So during the day, we can have the museum going, then at night we can let people in here and investigate. So they got 3-4 different things you can do there. That's really cool. Actually, my wife and I are going there Sunday. So, because she's never been there, and so we're going there during the.
Do y'all do house calls? Do you handle or have you done any home investigations where there's still occupants living in the home and they're reporting poltergeist, they're reporting apparitions, they're reporting, things like that?
We have had people reach out to us through Facebook and stuff. We're still iffy about it because
why is that?
A lot of the stuff they describe to us is like stuff you're going to see like in The Conjuring, and I'm like, I don't know if we're cut out for that. I don't want to see chairs flying through the air and the couch being levitated. I was like, I don't know if we're cut out for all that. And then if say we do go in there and we don't experience anything, and this person in their head is going to think, maybe I'm just insane, or I just don't. I don't want to upset the people when nothing happens, but I also don't want to take a chance if say there is like something super demonic in there. I don't know if I want to go in there and bring that home with me.
Not trying to bring the Bell Witch home.
Right. We've investigated my grandmother's house a few times because, she's like, hey, there's all this stuff always going on. I want you guys to bring your stuff over and try to figure out what's going on. And so we've done that a few times for her. And even though they say you're not supposed to investigate where you live, my wife and I have investigated where we live numerous times because we have shit here all the time.
I've never heard that saying. Why did they say that?
Honestly, I don't really know. I think they say, like, if there's something bad there, maybe you don't want to know about it or you don't want to make it worse. And I'm like, if it's something bad here and somebody else comes in, they're going to stir it up too. So I've never understood that I guess quote unquote rule. Don't investigate your own home. We've done it several times and nothing has changed.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, it's kind of like, don't investigate your own home, but it's like, the reason why you're investigating your home is because you already know something's there. So it's like,
I mean, we just want to know who they are and why they're still here. I mean, it doesn't bother us that they knock on the wall or walk through the hallways or, the one thing that really bothered us is when it knocked one of our pictures off the wall.
Yeah.
I was at the store grocery shopping and my wife was working from home at the time and she called me like freaking out. She's like, you got to come home right now. I was like, what's going on? She goes, you got to get here. She's like, something's knocked this picture off and I'm freaked the fuck out. I don't want to be here by myself. I'm like, all right, give me 20 minutes. I'll be home. So we have these pictures hanging up in our kitchen. And she's sitting back here in the bedroom on her computer doing her calls and stuff. And she said, it sounds like somebody rustling around in the kitchen. And then she just hears this loud crash. She's like, she goes, I finished my call, told my boss, hey, I think somebody's in my house. I need to go check out what's going on. She walks the house. She can't find nothing out of place. The doors are still locked. She goes walking back to the kitchen and notices one of the pictures is off the wall. And she's like, something's knocked this picture off. And then I get home and she's unhung it back up, but I pull the picture off and the nail had never shifted. And I hung it back up and I pounded my hand on the wall 7-8 times and it never vibrated off. So something like just physically picked it up off the nail and just dropped it. And so that really freaked her out. But since then, everything that's happened, she's been chill with. Like there was one night we were sitting in there watching TV and actually the hat I just took off a minute ago, it was sitting on our kitchen counter, went flying across the living room. Like somebody was just saying, hey, don't forget about us. Yeah. And of course, being the debunker, I was like, okay, maybe it was sitting on the very edge and just slowly slid off.
Yeah.
So I put it back up there, put it on the very edge and just kind of slowly pushed it off and it fell straight down every time. When I put it back up there, the fourth or fifth time I kind of slapped it and where it flew and landed was where it landed when it flew off by itself. And what's really weird about this shit is we've noticed about 2 weeks before we have a scheduled investigation, stuff at home will start picking up.
So they're reaching
So
out
I
to their
don't,
homies.
I guess they're just trying to get us prepared or letting us know, hey, don't bring anybody back with you. Or I don't know, but it's been doing that for about a year now.
That's wild. So you're kind of getting that like pre-hitchhiker effect.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
Is there a trend that you find? Maybe like churches or barns or something that are more haunted than the others?
We haven't done any churches yet. I really want to do a church because, like I said, I'm not really a religious person, but churches have always kind of weirded me out. They kind of give me the creep, especially the real
Me
old
too.
ones. I don't really. It's not that it's a church. It's just they just always look and feel creepy, and so that's a place I've been wanting to do is an old abandoned church. But we have a lot of luck in jails. I don't know if it's because Josh is in corrections because he's been in corrections since he was 18. So I don't know if like that connection helps us out or what. We seem to have our most luck in jails and prisons.
I mean,
That's
that
interesting.
is a conscious point of pain, suffering, mental disturbance. You have folks that are innocent, you have folks that are guilty. Either way, they're there for years,
Right.
and you have regularly scheduled deaths taking place. You have so much going on. Jails, prisons, like that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like I forget who said it, but they I think it was on Strange Familiars, the host of Strange Familiars, but he had an excellent argument about like basically the reason why graveyards are the least haunted places on the planet. And it's because like people died somewhere else, went over there, got dropped off, had some sort of finalizing ceremony and stuff. So I thought it was an interesting argument where it's just like, oh, well, the
That
trauma
makes
didn't
sense.
happen there. That happened
I mean-
somewhere else.
I mean, it makes
know.
sense, but at the same time, that's where their body's at.
It's true.
Maybe they're just attached to their body still. Because growing up, the place we went to the most, I couldn't say the word right, went to the most was the cemetery. Of course, the cemetery and the land surrounding it had like this weird, crazy background to it. But I remember one night, it was me and Keith and his girlfriend at the time. We were just walking through here at 3:00 in the morning with his digital. Actually, it wasn't a digital recorder then; it had the little tapes in it. We were walking through, just he was asking all these questions, and we go back into town and sit up in the middle of downtown, and we're listening to this thing. And he goes, "If there's somebody here, just let us know something." Right after he says that, clear as day, you hear a female say, "Good morning," and it was like 3:00 in the morning, and I was like, "No." And we played it back. Good morning. I was like, no shit, man. That was like the first time we actually caught something. And I was like, well, maybe that was, Michelle talking. He's like, no, man, that's not her. Played it again and again and again. Good morning. Like right after he says it. And so I believe cemeteries can be haunted, but I don't think they can be as haunted as say a jail or a hospital or, even a church. So
do you have any kind of like running standard of like what is the gold standard in evidence? Like what would be something where you're just like, this is it, I can retire, not saying you would, but like just like putting this on the shelf, like this is, what would that look like? What would that be?
If we were able to capture a full-blown full body apparition, I'd quit today. And the chances of that happening is very rare, because most of the time when you see these videos and stuff, it's normally something flying off the wall, or you'll hear stuff moving, but you never actually see what's causing it. And so to capture a full-blown apparition is like the holy grail of evidence. So I mean, I don't say I don't think I would quit. I would be I want more of this, because that's what happened last year when we caught that. I was like, okay, we've got something we've been wanting to get, but now I want more of this.
Yeah.
And so, and as far as equipment,
Yeah.
your best piece of equipment other than your senses is going to be a digital recorder, because you're more likely to capture audio of something than you are video. So you can you're going to be able to capture more EVPs than you're going to be able than you're capturing something flying off the wall or something being knocked off a counter. So if you go out and do it yourself, if you bring one thing, I would say bring a digital recorder.
Okay. And this might be stupid, but would a recorder on a phone work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of
Yeah.
the ones Josh has caught, he's recorded on his phone.
Okay. Well, dang. Yeah, you answered some of my questions. Oh, go ahead.
How do you sleep at night? I mean, because when I watch like a scary movie or just like even hear a story of someone telling me their experience, like Selena, when she told me about it, I go home and I'm just thinking about it. And I'm just wondering, like, you actually going to all these places and seeing and hearing all this stuff. How do you just go home and sleep?
That's a good question. A lot of the times, a lot of the places we go, they're 2-3 hours away. So by the time we get home, the adrenaline of the night's already wore off, and we've been up since 5-6 o'clock in the morning getting prepared. So by the time we get home, we're just like, I'm ready to crash, kick the shoes off and
Makes
go to bed.
sense.
Now there has been times where there will be stuff that'll happen at home where it makes me kind of want to sleep with one eye open for a moment. What the hell was that? We're the only two home. The kids are gone for the weekend. So it's like kind of keeps you on edge for a few minutes, but then I just kind of ignore it. So
Wow. Yeah.
That's kind of how I
get
handled
it.
living in a haunted house.
I know. I'm
I
like,
just kind
how
of
do you just
ignored
go
it
to
after a
sleep?
while.
Yeah.
like I said,
I
I've had stuff happen like everywhere I've lived since I was like 3 years old. Probably the craziest thing is I remember I don't know how many of us lived there at the time. I was living at home with my mom, but there was probably 9 of us living there. So it was like a whole big family of us living there. And I remember getting ready to walk out the basement door one night, and before I get to open the door, I see this woman standing in the yard. And I'm like, huh. And I was like, all right, maybe my sister's got to be out here smoking or something. That's got to be her. And I stood there and probably looked at her for a good 10 or 15 seconds, enough to realize that she was wearing a long white dress and her hair was white. And so I opened the screen door, and just from the time the screen door passes in front of my face, she was gone. And I was like, I'm like, okay. And so my 2 younger brothers were sitting out there. There were some steps out there. So their back was to this woman. And I was like, hey, was, my sister out here? They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, was she just in the yard? They're like, man, we've been sitting out here hanging out for the last 45 minutes. Ain't nobody been out here. And I was like, bullshit. I was like, there was somebody just in the yard. She goes, dude, there's nobody out here. I'm like, all right, that's okay. 3 nights later, the girl I was dating at the time, she was there. And so I was getting ready to walk her out to her car, walking through the same set of doors. She stops in front of me. I'm like, what are you doing? She doesn't say anything. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she finally snaps out of it. She goes, there's a woman in the yard. I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, there is a woman in your yard. And by then she kind of looked at me and she turned around. She goes, now she's gone. I was like, hold up. I was like, what did she look like? Because I hadn't told her about it. I was like, what did she look like? And she described the exact same thing. And I was like, well, you're not going to believe this, but I seen her like 3 nights ago. And she looked at me and she's like, no. I was like, I swear to God. And she's like, I'm gone. She never came back to the house at night anymore.
That's like when I was seeing that little boy running up and down the hallway, and my uncle was like, oh, do you see him too?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
And you know how they say kids are like more open to seeing this stuff. My nephew was living there at the time. He was 2 or 3 at the time. I think 3. And at the time I was having to share a room with a 3-year-old, which was terrible. But I was sitting in the living room watching TV. His mom's trying to get him to sleep, and she texts me. She goes, "He's in here talking to somebody." What are you talking about? She's like, he's looking at the closet door. The door was open. She goes, and he's talking to somebody in the closet. I was like, bullshit.
No.
She goes, I swear to God. And she tried to record him talking to him, but of course, by the time she started recording, he had done kind of dozed off. It wasn't probably a week later. They told me about it when I got home. They said he came through the living room, went to the back door, opened the back door, said, "Y'all come on in," went back doing what he was doing, came back about 15 minutes later, opened the door again. And he's like, "Okay, we'll see y'all tomorrow." My sister was like, "Hey, buddy, who are you talking to?" She goes, "Oh, I'm talking to the soldier man and his little boy." She goes, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "The soldier man, he was, oh, the closet." She asked him to describe the guy in the closet. She said the guy in the closet was covered in blood. This is a 3-year-old saying this stuff. And so, but back to the other part, she's like, "Yeah, the little boy and the soldier man came to play. We went back in Nana's room and played." And what's crazy about it is there's 2 tombstones in the side of the yard. One is of a 28-year-old man who was like a lieutenant or something back in like the 1800s. The other was like a 2-year-old child. And
my
he's not going to know
gosh.
that. He's 3 years old. I was like, holy shit. I was like, he just seen those 2 people that's buried on the side of the yard.
Wow.
It was
That's
crazy.
insane. My cousin also used to talk to her closet, and my uncle told me the creepiest story. He was babysitting her, like his room, the way it was set up, he could look out the bedroom door across the hall into her room. And he was babysitting, so he was in his room watching TV while she was in her room. And the door was open, and he just hears her talking. So he starts like looking over, and he sees her standing there looking up and talking to somebody. And then he like looks at her and he's like, "Kristen, what are you doing?" And she like turned and looked at him and then closed the door. And he just was like, "Okay," and left it like that.
Oh,
Sometimes you gotta let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah. I think that's the proper thing.
He was like, "All right, see you later, kid."
all right.
Finger guns. Good night. Oh my God. So I did want to get back. I kind of wanted to ask, so we got the idea of like gold standard, right? The full body apparition, right? What would be your top spot or location to investigate? You know, all expenses paid, you don't got to worry about work, everything's covered, you're free to go investigate as long as you want. What would that be?
Actually got a whole list on my phone.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Top of my list has, and it's been there for a long time, is Trans-Allegheny.
Trans-Allegheny, where's that?
It's an old lunatic asylum up in West Virginia.
Okay.
Ooh.
It's so huge. Like you could spend an entire week in that place and probably still not cover the entire place. But just like the history of it and like the stuff that's been reported that happens there, I'm like, if I can never get there, that's my top spot. And then there's a ton of places. The Conjuring House, obviously. You got Penhurst up in Pennsylvania. You got the Stanley Hotel. Lake Shawnee up in the abandoned amusement park up in West Virginia, where like 4 or 5 kids got killed whenever it was open. Bobby Mackey's Music World. That's the one place my wife refuses to go. Because it's supposed they say it's something demonic is there, and they claim there's actually a portal to hell there. I mean, I don't know if I buy into all that, but that's one place she's like, you go there, that's fine. I'm not going, I'm staying home. And she's like, you gotta come home doused in holy water and this and that. She goes, you're not coming in until,
Yep.
everything's good. And I'm like, okay. So that's one place. It may just be me and Josh going.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a ton of places that, and I'm actually we plan on knocking one of those places off next year. And it's a place I've
Okay.
been wanting to do for a long time. It's an old elementary school
Oh,
Up
that's
in
already
Ohio.
inherently creepy. What
up
part?
in Ohio. It's up in Middleton, Ohio, I think it is. It's called Poasttown Elementary.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
from
was like,
Toledo, Ohio. So
I'm just
been through that area.
I'm just intrigued by a school being so haunted.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people that's been there, and I've read like people's reviews on Facebook and stuff, and they're like, this is probably the most active place I've ever been. Stuff going on left and right. There was one woman said she didn't even get through 25% of the building, and she was like, I'm out.
Oh,
So,
wow.
and I'm like, and it's one of those reasonably priced places. So and we've been wanting to travel farther than we have been. Like, I think the farthest we've traveled has probably been Brushy Mountain. So probably about 3 or 4 hours away. So we're wanting to travel more up into Kentucky, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia. We're wanting to hit a lot of places up in the South.
Say you're one of our listeners, say, just anybody, and you thought that you started to notice things happening in your house. What would be your recommended methods or steps to start documenting things, to start debunking things, to start looking into it?
If they want to do it themselves,
Mhm.
I would suggest getting some like little security cameras you can buy at Walmart. They're most of them are night vision. Set them up to where they record at night, especially if stuff's happening at night, or just have it record 24/7. And then if something happens, just kind of go back and review it. And then if you're documenting all this stuff and you want to know who it is, start asking questions. Even if you don't have a recorder, if you're recording on the camera, there's a good chance you may get something through the camera that'll respond back to you. But if they're not open to doing it to themselves, there's usually always a ton of teams that are willing to help, that actually are doing it for the same reason we're doing it. I always suggest doing a little research on the team before you just reach out to the first team you come across. Because all the teams I'm associated with that do personal residences, they don't charge people. They just go in because they actually want to help the people. So I would say if you contact a team that charges, I probably wouldn't trust them, because they're probably just out to get your money, tell you what you want to hear, and then be on their way. So I would do the research if you're looking to bring a team in. You don't want to bring a team in, get you some security cameras and a good digital recorder to set out one night, and just go from there. Of course, if it's demonic, you may want to call a priest and stuff to come bless the house and exorcise the house and all that stuff. I would suggest moving, but sometimes it just follows you to where you go. So
Oh, it follows you?
it can.
Sometimes they can, yeah.
Even if it's like another country?
Like my wife's been told she's had something attached to her ever since she was a kid.
Oh, no.
She don't know who it is, but she said that she's had somebody attached to her since she was a kid.
Yeah, I want to find out. Because I've always kind of felt like that, but
See, she
I
wants to
haven't had
find out
any
too.
other like strange paranormal encounters since I've moved to North Carolina.
And that sucks that even if you leave the house, move to another country, it will still follow you.
And see, because you never know, it could be something attached to you. If you buy like a lot of antiques, something could be attached to that chair you just bought or that old plate you just bought. You just never know. So,
Yeah.
and that's why you kind of want to investigate, because say you do have a haunted trunk that is the reason behind all this stuff. Get rid of the trunk, maybe it won't happen anymore because they're attached to the trunk and not you or your house or your land. So
Yeah, Selena, you need to check your jewelry and your clothes. Who knows?
You never know.
I know I
Especially if you
thrift
bought
a
it.
lot.
Things, especially if you buy stuff at like thrift stores or at
I
big
do.
yard sales, estate sales. My
There
uncle
you
goes to a ton of estate sales, and he's bought all kinds of old antique furniture that he's brought into my grandmother's house. I'm like, that's probably some of the reason that you have so much shit going on here.
This
Yeah.
this makes me realize that hipsters might be the most haunted demographics.
Never know.
Just everything's vintage, everything's thrift store.
Right.
So true.
Just another reason to stay away from them.
Hey, I believe in thrifting.
You can find RKB Paranormal online and on Instagram.
We just got our official website up about 2 days ago. So that's going to be rkbparanormal.com. It has links to all of our social accounts, our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that. We're doing our first paranormal convention in October. It's in Lebanon, Tennessee at the Wilson County Fairgrounds. It's called Phantom Paws and Historic Cause. And the people putting it on, I'm actually really good friends with one of the teams, Medics for Paranormal. And then the other team that's putting it on is PPF Investigations. They were actually on one of the episodes with Conjuring Kesha at a location they just did. But the reason behind it is they're donating part of the funds to a senior dog sanctuary, and then they're donating the other half of what they raised to like a historic haunted location and kind of help restore it and stuff like that. So it's for a really good cause, and people will get to meet teams, and I think they got some psychics and mediums coming out, and they got all kinds
When
of
is that?
stuff. It's October 22nd. So, and then we're doing another, it's not really a convention, it's more just like a meet and greet. About 2 weeks later, actually at one of the locations we've investigated in Kentucky, it's just called the Paranormal Meet and Greet at the Old Stone Jail up in Franklin, Kentucky. We're going to attend that and just kind of meet some new people and just kind of hang out. And I've actually had the idea floating in my head to try to do one in our hometown. I just don't know how well it would go over. And as I've been talking to you guys, that we're trying to get our own podcast started. I still haven't figured out the method I want to do yet. I'm probably going to go with Zoom. It seems like it'd probably be the easiest for me anyway. It's going to be called Life Beyond 6 Feet. Obviously, it's going to be a paranormal podcast, and I've already got probably about 25 guests lined up that want to be on the show. Like I said, it's just I've got to get it up and going. I can't give out any names yet, but there is 3 or 4 that's kind of well known to the paranormal world. They've been on TV and stuff. I don't want to give out any names yet, but and then in October, we're going to be featured in American Paranormal Magazine.
Nice.
So we're pretty excited about that. And what's crazy about that is they have like a directory that you can like be listed on their website. And I think in the very back of the magazine, you can just like have your team listed on there. And I just reached out. I was like, hey, how do I get in the directory? And the editor emailed me back probably a day later, and she's like, hey, we've looked into your team. We want to feature you guys. I was like, are you serious? She's like, yeah.
Oh, nice.
He goes, we're like a bi-monthly magazine, but we're putting out a special Halloween edition this year. And we want you guys, because they feature 2 teams per magazine. So he goes, we want you guys to be one of our featured teams. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, okay. I was like, tell us what you need. So we're pretty excited about that too.
I wanted to ask you this. How often do you go out and do this? Is it like whenever you can, or once, twice a week?
If it was up to me, I'd be out constantly. But of course, we're all married, have kids, we got to work, be at home. So we try to do an investigation about once every 2 to 3 months. That way it kind of gives us enough time to put back a little bit of money and stuff like that. I mean, it does help that we have 6 team members, so we can all kind of split the cost on places, which really helps. So we try to go at least every 2 to 3 months. So like I said, we had one in May, and then we just had one a couple of weeks ago. We got another coming up in about a month, and then we're going back to that same jail that the picture flew off the wall. We're going back there around Halloween. So, and then like I said, I think I've already got 4 or 5 places in mind for next year. So we got a whole list of things we got going on. So it's going to be a busy next few months.
Do you watch Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch? Are you a fan of that?
I've seen you guys posting about it. I haven't checked it out yet. It's on Netflix, ain't it?
It's crazy.
It's they just started putting it up on Netflix. I'm a huge
Okay.
fan. Skinwalker Ranch has a long-standing history of everything from ghosts, portals, Bigfoot, UFOs, dire wolves. Like you can think of it, it's there.
That's how
and-
that place up in Kentucky is. I was talking about Octagon Hall. They have reports of all that kind of stuff there too.
That's insane.
But I think you would appreciate Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, the way he made an agreement with History Channel for recording the show.
Mhm.
Because they track paranormal stuff and UFOs and da. And they're facing the same pressure about like, all right, well, may have been chill the day of recording, but what happens when it's produced, and what happens when you're sitting there and you're watching it on TV 4 months later, and you're like, the hell, that wasn't even the same place. Like what
Right.
But Brandon Fugel's had to constantly fight to keep the producers on point.
Mm-hmm. That's how I would be too.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want an authentic show that shows what it's really like, because it's not nonstop.
No.
If it's a super active night, great. You're probably going to get a good rating that episode. If it's kind of a boring night, people might turn it off. But hey, if they really want to see what it's like, they'll continue watching it.
Totally.
And that's kind of what we're wanting to do with our YouTube. Because at first I was just putting the good stuff on there. I think people don't want to see all this the boring stuff in between, as people would call it. But I'm like, you know what? This is what it's really like. And so what I'm going to be releasing from that funeral home, there's 10 minutes of us sitting in a room just asking questions and nothing's going on.
Yeah.
And
that's something I appreciate about y'all. Like going through your videos, looking over your accounts and stuff, is that well, one, when you do deliver a jump scare, it scares the hell out of you.
Well, most of the jump scares in our stuff is me getting spooked myself by myself. Like in the video I just released of the first video of the funeral home, I got scared shitless because I seen myself in the mirror. So, I mean,
That'd be something I'd do.
I've even released a blooper reel of all the funny stuff that's happened in our investigations.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So it's so most of the time when you hear screaming, it's probably because I've been scared by something that's not paranormal. So as my wife calls me, I'm the Aaron of the team, because he always seemed to, on Ghost Adventures, he'd be the one that always gets spooked the most. So, and it was crazy when we were doing our walkthrough that night. Me and my wife were upstairs, and they had an old like armoire upstairs that had mirrors on it. And I told her, I was like, at some point tonight, somebody's going to see themselves in one of these, because there's a ton of mirrors in this house. Like somebody's going to catch their reflection, and it's going to scare them. It wasn't 5 minutes later, I was the one screaming. So,
that's hilarious.
At least you had the foresight, you knew.
And so the rest of the night, when I walked down that certain hallway, I made sure I knew exactly where that mirror was at, because I knew it was bound to happen again, but it didn't. But I knew it was going to happen at some point.
just waiting. You like throw up your arms, but then you realize your reflection isn't moving.
Thank you for listening to the Black Cat Report. We're enjoying our spooky chat with RKB Paranormal, and we hope you're enjoying listening too. You can contact us at contact@blackcat.report if you have any story ideas. And also make sure to always like and subscribe on your streaming platform. Now back to the rest of the podcast.
Have any of y'all ever actually went on an investigation?
Not yet.
No, but I'd want to.
Yeah, I'd be game. I'm scared as hell, but I'd be game.
It's a rush, even if nothing happens, because you're always on edge, because you never know what could happen when you walk around this corner or when you say hello, if something's going to say something back or throw something at you. It's like it's always intense because you just don't know what's going to happen. You know, and occasionally you will have those nights where like nothing does happen. And actually our very first like official investigation when we started the team after Brushy Mountain, we went to an old plantation house in Tennessee, and it's actually still in operation and people can have weddings there and stuff like that. But it was absolutely dead. Like, no pun intended, it was a dead night. And it got to the point where me and Josh were sitting downstairs on my couch and we start falling asleep. And so that's where I try to tell people that this stuff doesn't happen all the time. And the saying we like to use the most is it's like fishing. You could go one night and not have a bite the entire time you're there. You can go back to the exact same spot the next night and you'll be getting bites left and right. So, and that's what I want to start showing on our YouTube is that this stuff doesn't happen on cue all the time.
That I'm glad you use that metaphor, because that's something that's bothered me for years about folks that try to debunk hauntings, you know, debunk the paranormal, debunk ghosts, debunk this is, and even some of these, you know, Travel Channel shows and things like that. But they'll use as a reference, say it'll be some janitor who saw a full body apparition, you know, appear moving through some place in like a repeated pattern or something like that. And they'll use that on a ghost tour for years. They'll be like, yes, so even the janitor, Mr. Green, he saw this. And he's like, yep, I saw it one night. I've been working here 65 years, the same shift. And I saw it one time. And then they go there and then they're like, well, we didn't catch anything. It's not haunted. And it's like,
Right.
what the? You know, this guy's been going here 5, 6, 7 days a week, 50, 60 years, saw something one time. That doesn't debunk anything if you go there for 4 hours and you don't see something. You know, it really is hit or miss.
That's happened to us at the old Stone Jail. I've talked to several teams that just had crazy activity the whole time we were there. And when we were there, nothing happened. I got scared by a mannequin, if that counts. But I mean,
but what the hell's a mannequin doing there?
the part of it is set up at like a museum.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
and so, you know, that was another one of those nights where not much happened.
Yeah.
But I've talked to other teams and I've seen their videos and stuff where stuff's just popping off left and right. So it's just more or less you're on their time. If they want to show out for you, they're going to. If they don't want to, they're going to just sit back and watch you just walk around in the dark for 8 hours. So
Do you think they choose who they show up to, or it's just random? Like, do you think like, hey, we like this people, let's say hi? Or do you think they're just, it's just they're on a different timeline, you know, and they show up for a reason?
I think it depends on if you're dealing with a residual haunting or an intelligent haunting. If it's residual, it may not happen all the time. It may just happen every so often, but it's the exact same thing that's happening every time you go there. If it's intelligent, you know, they're like me and you, they're going to sit there and like, okay, these people are in here doing this. Do I feel like showing out tonight? Or am I just going to make them wonder if I'm really here? So the intelligent ones, I think they may pick and choose. I know I would.
Yeah, I guess we never really got into the types of hauntings. Skipping the obvious here. Yeah,
We've
so you
never,
said that.
yeah, we've never really experienced many residual hauntings. It's all been intelligent stuff.
How can you tell which one's intelligent? And
When they'll do something almost on cue, like if they're interacting with you, if say we have a REM pod set up and it starts going off, we'll say, okay, if that was you, will you do that again? And so if it's intelligent, they're going to do it again. If it's residual, the chances are it's not going to happen again. So there's one video I think I may have shared that we had 2 minutes of REM pod activity.
Yeah.
Like I would tell it to get out of the chair, and as soon as I say stand up out of the chair, it would stop beeping. And so we've had a lot of that. We've had stuff at that jail we're going back to. We had stuff coming through our Ovilus telling us to read this article on the wall. Like it was literally spitting out words in this article, wanting us to read this article to them. And it was about some crazy murder that happened there years ago. And it was spitting out all these words, and I got to looking around the room and I noticed this article and I was like, man, that word they spit out, that word it spit out. And it wasn't just like your normal everyday words. It was like actual words in this article. And I was like, that's really weird. And when I told the ladies about it the next day, they said since then that's happened to a lot of teams. Or like it'll direct them to a certain article or a certain room, wanting them to find what's going on in that room. And so like that's the intelligence stuff you're dealing with. Like that picture being knocked off the wall. We basically told it to do that. We didn't tell it to do that, but we were saying, okay, you've been doing all this stuff all night. You've been getting our attention. We need you to do something to prove to us you're really here. And about that time is when that woman said hello, or help rather, and we walked out and that picture frame gets slapped off the wall. So they do respond to you. It may not happen when you want it to happen, but they will respond to you.
So we're saying like they, and we're all referring them to like they and stuff like that, and especially with intelligent hauntings. How do we conceptualize that? Like how do we conceptualize the existence when nobody's there? Is it kind of like when a tree falls, if nobody's around to hear it, doesn't really happen? Is it still happening? Obviously, open to diversity of these types of things, but yeah, I guess I was taught early, anytime they gets brought up a lot, ask who they is, like what's going on in their mind or their existence out there. Like what, as somebody who investigates this, has a team, co-founded a team with this, where are you at in conceptualizing what they are?
They're people just like me and you. They may not be here in the physical form anymore, but they, whether it's a girl or a guy, they were human once. I don't look at them any differently than I would be talking to one of you guys. I'll treat them with the same respect as I would anybody. And we all do that. We don't go in there trying to, provoke them and piss them off. We treat them with respect. I mean, because most of the time, the places we go, I mean, even if it's a prison, they were still human. And they may have done bad things, but we may not know what they did to be in there. It could have been something, because especially at Brushy Mountain, that they put children in that prison. They put people in there for stealing bread, and they would be in prison for 5 years. Yeah. So just because you're in a prison or a jail doesn't mean you're always interacting with somebody that was a total asshole in life. So, I mean, I treat them just the same as I would anybody else. Now, we do kind of push them a little bit, kind of, I guess, motivate them more or less, as where some teams come in talking shit to them, trying to piss them off to get them to do something. And, you don't want to do that because you don't know if that's something evil or not, or something that's going to attach itself to you and come home and terrorize you at home. So if you go in with that mindset that, hey, this could be bad, we don't need to go in here and piss this thing off, then I think you're all good. Now, of course, there's always that chance that even if you do go in respectful, you still got that chance of something being just terrible and doing all kinds of crazy shit to you.
Yeah. Do you think they know what they are or where they are? I don't know if you watched the movie The Others, and it really hit me to thinking like, oh my God, what if they don't even know they're the ghost, or, they're in a different dimension or something like.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
I think some of them do, but then I think there may be some that we may be ghosts to them. They may be living their everyday life, and then they hear us randomly talking and they have no clue where it's coming from.
Like The Others, right?
Right. Like I don't remember what place it was at, but I remember hearing some audio of this guy saying, where are you at? And the woman comes back, well, I'm right here. Where are you at? I don't see you. Where are you coming from? Like she was talking like she was living and he was the ghost. It was crazy, but that's just what I believe in my head. So
do you think of, I guess sometimes with these, I guess we'll call them like hot spots, right? Even though it's a misnomer, this should be called cold spots, right? But but with these cold spots, right? Do you think sometimes it's interdimensional? Interdimensional in the sense of currently living, I don't know, let's get crazy with string theory, connecting all these dots and stuff. But you think it's like interdimensional, like there's a crossover, a thin veil between dimensions?
I'm one of those people that kind of believe that anything's possible.
Okay.
I mean, we may never be able to prove it or to show it, but just because we can't see it or prove it, how do we know that it doesn't exist or that's not happening? I mean, like a lot of people don't believe in aliens. Just because you've never seen one doesn't mean they're not out there,
Yeah.
So just like a lot of people don't believe in ghosts, they're around you all the time. Whether you believe it or not. You could have somebody sitting right beside you and never know it because they're not letting you know it.
Well, I'm not sleeping tonight.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah. You just caused everyone, all of our listeners for years from now to just be
Shoo shoo.
Like I said, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it's not there.
It's true.
I mean, that's just how I feel about stuff like that. So
earlier this year, I heard probably the best argument for ghosts, for spirits, for apparitions, for things like this. Very simple. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It transfers, right? Always. That's just everything. Everywhere around us shows us that specifically. It always just transfers, it disperses, things like that. So what happens to thoughts? All those thoughts that you have in your mind when you're laying in bed at night, when Betsabé can't sleep, when you're coming back from an investigation and you're just kind of cycling through things, all of these thoughts that we have, that we hear, in our minds, but we never act on. Where does the energy go? Where's the exhaust? Right? And that got me, at least thinking into it, where I was just like, that to me shows like energy is, our consciousness is an energy. Just case in point.
Right.
And so when you die, where does that go? Is it just moving around through the universe? Is it stuck in place? Is it stuck to an object, a traumatic event, to an experience? That all of a sudden it starts making a lot more sense to me. But
Mhm.
yeah, just
I
wanted
mean,
to throw that in there.
it could be all of those things.
Yeah.
Just again, just because you can't prove it doesn't mean it's not happening. I mean, there's so many questions that may never be answered, and that's another reason why we enjoy doing this, because we have so many questions about this stuff. You never know. Who knows? Maybe we'll be the ones that breaks through and figures it all out. You just don't know, and it's just one of those many things that you may never know.
Also, animals and like you said, kids, they can see more than we can see. I don't know if you have any pets, but like sometimes Bonbon will be looking at something and I'm like, what are you looking at?
We don't have any pets, but um, there's. I remember this one specific time with my ex-wife. I was back in what was my man cave, and I was coming through to go to bed one night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and her grandfather lived with us. And so when I got about halfway through the living room, I heard a deep male voice say, "Hello." So I kind of jumped and it startled me. I thought it was him. And I turn around, his bedroom door still closed, the bathroom lights not on, and our cat was looking in that direction, like all hunched up with his hair all sticking up, and was like hissing or whatever it was doing. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and go to bed because I don't want to stick around and see what that was. But
You're like, you got this, cat.
so it was my grandmother, she says her dogs would do that stuff all the time. They'll bark at like the most random spots of the house. And she's like, why are you barking at, the fireplace, or why are you barking at the corner of the chair? And so, yeah, I think animals can see all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
I
too.
wonder why. Like, what is it that has them have that ability that us as humans, well, most of us can't.
I don't know. I wish you could like get inside of an animal's head to see what they think and see what
Yeah.
they see to kind of figure out what goes on that causes that. Where, like you said, most of us can't see that. So
I wonder if it has to do with like their base, like animal instincts, just being more heightened than ours.
that's probably part of it, because they're always in that defense mode, even if you don't realize it. And so if they see something that we're not seeing, they're automatically going to get in defense mode. And then I wouldn't mind having like a ghost hunting dog, that we bring with us on investigations, where maybe they can sense something that one of us might not, or at least see something. Like my wife, she's been opened up to the sensitivity, and she thinks she's always had it, but she's been here over the last year or so. She's been more open to it. So now, like just sitting at home, she'll be like, there's somebody in the hallway. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, everybody's in bed. She goes, no, there's somebody like standing right in the hallway. She goes, I can feel them. It just a couple of nights ago, we were standing there talking. She goes, somebody just walked up behind me. I'm like, no, they didn't. She goes, yeah. She goes, I felt it. I felt them come up behind me, like they're standing over me, listening to us. And so she's become more open to that. So her and Josh are like our sensitives of the group. And Josh, he had like a near-death experience a few years back. So that helped open him up a little bit, I think. And so he'll sense stuff and feel stuff that I may not feel, or Adam may not feel, or so it's good to have those type of people on your team too. If you have any of those people that are into this stuff.
What are the names of the people on your team and what their roles are?
Well, there's me. I'm Damion.
Yes.
Of course, there's Josh. He's been my best friend for 30 years. Probably more close to 32 years now. He's our other co-founder. My wife Kelly's on the team. Our friend who lives in North Carolina, his name's Mark. He's been friend with me and Josh probably about 30 years as well. Our good friend Adam, he recently rejoined the team. he was an original member of the team, but then some stuff happened when we started the team, and I more or less just booted everybody out, but like 4 of us. And he was the only one who didn't get upset about it. And so we recently brought him back on, and then his wife went with us a couple weekends ago, so she may be our next member. So at the moment, we got 5 with a potential 6 joining soon. And so, and we all have a similar role. We all investigate, we all do research. I do most of the booking and stuff, but other than that, we're all equal. We all investigate, we all take turns during investigations, asking questions, doing the Estes method.
What method?
The Estes method. You have your spirit box. You plug your headphones into them. You put your headphones on. You blindfold yourself where you can't see, so your senses are a little bit more heightened.
Scared as shit.
You're alone. We'll put you in a room by yourself. We'll be in the next room, just asking all these questions, and you're just spitting out whatever comes through. Sometimes it'll be in conjunction with what we're asking. Sometimes it's just random stuff. We've had a lot of luck with it, where we'll ask a certain question, and whatever they spit out, I mean, it may be a coincidence, but it matches right up with whatever we're asking. I think our most interesting one is at the post office where 3 of us got scratched.
Yes, you show me these photos.
My wife and Josh were on the top floor. My wife was doing the Estes method, and me and Mark were in the basement. Didn't even know they were doing it. And we're just down there. I'm recording with my camera and the digital recorder, just asking questions. And whenever we went back upstairs, she's like, none of this stuff made sense. I was like, well, what were you getting? So some of the responses she was getting was answering the questions we were asking 2 floors down. And we had no clue they were even doing that upstairs.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
It was
Intense.
it was wild. That whole building, a post office of all places, was been one of our most active nights.
Wow.
Are there any other methods you guys use as well?
There's another one I recently just found out about. I haven't looked into it yet. They said it's similar to the Estes method. We've done some different stuff with Josh. Like at one of the jails we were at, we put him in one of the cells. He put his arms through the cells. We handcuffed him through the cell bars where he couldn't go anywhere. So he was basically stuck until we uncuffed him. And so that was something we tried. We're hoping we can get to a funeral home that actually has caskets still in them, because we want to put him in a casket and do the Estes method.
Poor him.
I mean, he normally volunteers, so I mean, I'm willing to do it, but he always kind of jumps the gun. He's like, "Hell, I'll do it. Go right ahead." So, I mean, we both did it at the post office. We both got locked in separate vaults. Or like we were locked in this vault by ourselves, more like it was a bank vault. You
What
have
the
a
hell were their
twisty
vaults? Yeah.
in a post office. That one I didn't really understand that either, but they were there in 2 separate places. There was a lot of stuff about that building that was just really odd, and the people that kind of were the overseers of it, we felt like they were hiding some stuff. Like I don't know if like the town was telling them, hey, don't say this stuff, or the owners was kind of telling them, hey, don't tell this stuff. But there was a lot of stuff. Like the guy would go to say something, and his wife would kind of look at him, kind of shake her head, or kind of do that motion, like, hey, you can't talk about that. So it was really weird. But like, I'm in this vault by myself doing this Estes method, and it kept feeling like somebody's behind me. And of course, I'm in there by myself. And after a few minutes, I kind of go like this, like, damn, my neck's burning. And I was like, fuck this, I got to get out of here. And so I'm trying to open the door. And of course, when Josh opens the door, it scares the hell out of me. But I was like, what's going on? I was like, man, my neck's burning. And when he checks my neck, there's 3 scratches going down the back of my neck. And that's another thing a lot of these shows like to portray is 3 scratches is automatically evil or demonic. And that's not always the case. And we didn't take that chance. We were like, our night's done. Say this prayer. We're going home. We didn't know, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's bad. That could be their only way of communicating. They could be trying to touch you and it comes out as 3 scratches. So that's another thing that kind of annoys me about these shows is they automatically just say that's a demon. I got scratched 3 times. You don't know that because nothing else crazy has happened to your entire episode but that, and you haven't even said anything about being demonic until now. That annoys the shit out of me. So, and a lot of teams are like that too. They just automatically want to jump the gun. I'm like, you don't know that. I'm like, unless something just continuously evil happens and bad happens, don't just assume that you're dealing with something bad. But like I said, we didn't take that risk because we didn't know, and we had done 2 of us had already got scratched prior to that, so we were just kind of like, maybe something crazy is here. Maybe we just need to go ahead and dip for the night. So, and coincidentally, not long after that investigation, they shut it down for public investigations. Like nobody's allowed to investigate there anymore.
Oh, okay.
They said because the building got sold and the new owner didn't want to do it, but
Sure.
it was just really weird. That whole town is weird.
Yeah,
It's super weird.
post office that has multiple cells inside.
Right. And there was
You know,
another room down in the basement. Another room down in the basement. I almost felt like it was an interrogation room. Like it was just a random room boxed in the basement, like just a random room. There was nothing in the room.
Was this
There
the
was
post
one-
office at Guantanamo Bay?
Thank you for listening to the Black Cat Report and our interview with RKB Paranormal. You can find them online at rkbparanormal.com. And listen next week because we'll have a special guest co-host sitting in with us. If you have a story you would like us to cover, please email us at contact@blackcat.report. And always remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the other side.